This is a full video of the climb of the steepest section to Sandakphu. This is Bhikeybhanjan, the place from where the climb starts. This road on the left is the one that goes through Nepal, and the road on the other side of the staircases is the one that goes through India. Bhike is at an altitude of roughly 3200 meters and Sandakphu is at 3636 meters. This gain in altitude is covered in 3 kilometers through mostly dust and gravel road and quite steep at times. However, to my surprise, the first few minutes of the drive was through wide roads with a gentle slope. Here I paused for a few moments to think if I really wanted to go ahead because there might not be a point where I could made a U-turn. And being alone, there was always the element of what if something goes wrong? Add to that, the cloudy atmosphere barely lifted the spirits. You can see through the veil of cloud lifting and blue skies making their appearance for the first time. The road was rough with gravels, loose cree and at times boulders. The car was in four-wheel drive high for majority of the first 20 minutes of the drive, after which I switched to 4 low. The dashcam footage does not depict the incline, but the track was steep, turns were narrow, with one side with steep drops and the other side with ditches. Hence, you ought to be careful at times. The clouds disappeared, settling down in the valleys, and the track continued to be rough, steep, and narrow. The Scorpion, being a wide vehicle, required 3-point turns at times, or it might be that I was driving too close to the hillside to avoid the steep drops. But its performance through the climbs was scintillating. It was climbing with ease, rarely breaking a sweat. There were places when you start to wonder what lies beyond. Is it a turn or a straighter stretch? But whatever was thrown at the car, it continued to climb superlatively. You can see the clouds moving along. The skies had turned blue, the road was rough and steep, and then I saw what was possibly the Sherpa chalet, Sandakphu's iconic landmark where I had stayed a few times that I had trekked in the past. I was near yet quite far. From then on, the Sherpa chalet continued to be in my sights for most of the journey, and that was hope. The road was rough and narrow, and I was not able to see how much of space was actually present on the drop side, and this posed a challenge. We were back again to the narrow sections where one needs to be very careful. A co driver or a passenger would have helped to see how much of space was left on the drop side. At times, I was driving very close to the hillside, which resulted in scraping the running boards. The sun was blinding the eyes, clouds were rising, and I had to be ultra cautious in this stretch. The progress was cautiously smooth till this moment, after which I hit a roadblock. The car wouldn't simply budge from where it stood. It was then that I switched to 4 low to see if the greater torque made a difference. But the car won't simply move, so I reversed and accelerated, but still was stuck. It was precisely here that fear struck me. Chances of accelerating was also difficult because the road was narrow and you never know if you could topple over. It was then that I got down from the car to see where was it stuck and then saw a huge boulder in front of the rear right tire, which was the culprit. So I reversed the car further, shoved away the boulder, and it was then that I could proceed. After reaching the top, I came to know that this is a routine activity because the track keeps changing, obstacles appear and then disappear. I could feel from the horizon that the mountains had ended, or rather, the top was very near. Little did I know that the last mile was also the most difficult one. The road was narrow as a thread, and the boulders that jutted out from the hillside made the road even narrower. This was a junction where the water carriers from Sandakphu top fill up their quota. Must say here that the local drivers of Nepal were friendly and cooperative, and noticing a driver from the plains, they guided me through this stretch. I encountered the first vehicle crossing of the Bhike to Sandakphu stretch here, but thankfully the track was wide and we could cross easily. However, from this stretch, you can get an idea about the incline. What appears mostly flat in the dashcam footages is actually quite steep. The final stretch continued to be bumpy with exposed sections, and the sun blinded the eye at times. climb was finally over. Here I met a couple of village folks and asked them if this was really the end of the drive. They did smile, but of course I knew that the end was there. Clear skies at the top indicated that the sleeping Buddha, which is the Kanchenjunga range, was visible. That day I saw a superb sunset. Kanchenjunga was visible for the entire 16 hours that I was there. The next day's descent was in no amount easy, and that is for another day.